Hi, today our story is called Curious George, Tadpole Trouble. Do you know what a tadpole is? That's right, a tadpole is a baby frog. So what kind of trouble do you think there could be with the tadpoles? Did you see George? He's a very curious monkey. What is he doing? Yeah, it looks like he's hopping with the frogs. How many frogs do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's read our story and find out what happens and why there's trouble with the tadpoles. George was exploring a lake with his friend Bill. George was a good explorer and always very curious. He was especially curious about tadpoles. Look in the jar. It looks like Bill caught some tadpoles in the lake. Bill told George he could be in charge of the tadpoles they found. George took tadpole watching very seriously. He watched them swim in their glass bowl. He fed them boiled lettuce. He took them for a swim in the lake. At the time, it seemed like good exercise for tadpoles. There's George watching them in the glass bowl. He's feeding them boiled lettuce. And then he thought it would be good exercise to let them go for a swim at the lake. What do you think will happen? When the tadpoles did not come back, George started to worry. What would Bill say? He had to find them. George spent hours at the lake. He found turtles and water beetles and minnows, but no tadpoles. Uh-oh. The tadpoles didn't come back. George looks worried. Every time George would visit the lake, he would look for the tadpoles. Several weeks went by. Finally, he found something that looked like a tadpole, but it had legs and almost no tail. George let it go. What do you think it was that George had found? See how it has a short tail and 2 back legs? I wonder what that was. A few weeks after that, George took a walk in the city to think about his tadpole problem. He was going back to the lake soon. Bill would be very disappointed if George had lost the tadpoles. George walked so long, he found himself in front of the museum. He saw a butterfly. That reminded him of being at the lake. He followed it. Where do you think George will follow the butterfly to? Let's see where he goes. The butterfly flew into the museum, and George kept following it, past all kinds of exhibits. Those are different things in the museum. There was a special display about creatures that live around lakes. George knew about many of them, like turtles, minnows, lizards, and tadpoles. Did you see some of the things on exhibit at the museum? picture of the baby tadpole reminded him of his own tadpoles. Do you see the baby tadpole here? Next to it was one of those funny creatures George had seen at the lake. It had legs and a smaller tail. That's what he saw. Now he understood. The creatures with legs were tadpoles. His friends had not vanished. They were just changing and growing up. George was so excited. He left the museum without finishing the exhibit tour. Here you can see the frog eggs. Frogs lay eggs, and out of the eggs come tadpoles. And then the tadpole keeps growing and changing into a froglet. And then it eventually will become a frog. As soon as George got back to the lake, he looked for his missing friends, especially the ones with little legs and almost no tails. But they were not there either. This time George could find only frogs. Lots and lots of frogs. What do you think happened to the tadpoles and the froglets? Yeah, I think so too. What a good idea, George, Bill said, seeing the empty jar. You decided to release the tadpoles into their natural habitat so we could watch them grow into frogs. You're not only curious, you're smart too. So the frogs' natural habitat, the place where they grow and live, was the lake. That's their home. Let's take a picture of you and the frogs together. George, smile. How do you think George feels? Look at his face. Yeah, he looks happy. What do you think made George so happy? Yeah, you're right. I think he was happy that his tadpoles that he released were okay and that they grew into frogs, and then he got to see them and hop around with them. That would be a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed our story today.